Hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our next Developer Livecast here on the Game Wisdom YouTube channel. We got a great one for you today. As you can see the little advertisement in the Skype window. We're going to be talking about FPS design and a developer who is currently working on a throwback to the days of Quake, Doom, and so on. For our guest tonight, please welcome one part of the team who's creating Dusk, Dave Oshri.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey Dave, it's great to have you on. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I got some coffee. It's a bright, sunshiny day here in San Diego, California, so I got no complaints.
It's a dreary, rainy day here in New Jersey, so I guess I do have some complaints.
Yeah, I remember. I remember those. I'm from the East Coast. So I remember those.
But it's great to have you on. We were originally going to have a second Dave, but unfortunately he is feeling under the weather right now.
Yeah, Dusk Dave, David Szymanski. You don't pronounce the Z in Poland. He's not doing too good. He's sick, and he's he's busy trying to not be sick. So I gave him the day off, and by day off I mean he should go finish Dusk.
Exactly. He needs to get episode 3 out tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I don't know about all that, but yeah, getting there.
Yeah, but it's only been a lot of fun playing Dusk, and we certainly have a lot to talk about. For myself, I am still recovering from this damn cold, so fingers crossed that I'll make it through without too much coughing, but you never know with this kind of stuff. I have 2 drinks on either side of me, so I've come prepared for it. But we still have a great cast for today, because there's a lot to talk about with Dusk, as well as with the design of FPSs, and especially how things have changed. So, to begin with, Dave, for people watching this, either live or recorded, could you talk a little bit about your background in the industry, and of course, what is Dusk?
All right, so what is Dusk? Well, I mean, Dusk, anybody who... We've been pretty clear with our messaging. Basically, if you like games like Quake and Doom and Duke 3D and Shadow Warrior and Hexen and Heretic and Unreal and all that stuff, then you'll probably like Dusk a lot. It is a game that is inspired by, all those games. It's a bit derivative, but it does its own thing. And it's available now in early access. 2 out of 3 single-player episodes, handcrafted levels, handcrafted episodes. We got that old school E1, M1, E1, M2, E2, M3, secret levels. It's also got an endless mode, and it's also got a Dusk World multiplayer, which is inspired by Quake World, not Quake Live, the original. It's kind of a big mess and a shit show, but it's a lot of fun. We got events. We're doing a tournament this week, actually, our first ever Dusk World 1v1 tournament. We got like 60, 70 people signed up in the brackets already. You can go check that out if you haven't. And yeah, it's our ode to those games. It's a lot of people. We're the kind of people that play games like Dusk, or the kind of people that just play like Doom wads and Quake stuff and total conversions and stuff. They don't play a lot of new shooters, right? They play mods for old shooters. But we wanted to make a game that kind of felt like it was lost in time, right? That you could have plucked it out of like 96, 97. It would have been like, this would have been a game that came out then. So that's what Dusk is. Check out the trailers if you've seen it. You know exactly what it is. As far as me, I've been working in games for about 10 years now, almost 10 years. Started out as just blogging about games on the side while I was working selling cars in New York out of college. Just as fun. I was that dude who played World of Warcraft as like a second job. I'd work at the dealership all day and come home and raid all night. It was like a second job for me. And I met some guys while playing WoW that had a video game blog that was kind of popular, and I asked if I can write for them. It seemed like a fun hobby, and that turned into me editing for the site, and then owning the site, and then writing for some like big name sites like PC Gamer and Kotaku and stuff like that. And then I used my marketing background and my marketing degree to kind of transition from writing about games to doing marketing for indie games. And I got involved with these dudes at Apogee and 3D Realms, and we decided that we could do a reboot. Well, it was going to be an HD remaster of Rise of the Triad, one of my favorite shooters from the 90s. So I got involved with that as like the marketing dude. And we went and we made that, and it was crazy. We made it happen, and it came out, and it did pretty well. Sold hundreds of thousands of copies, and next thing I'm like a video game marketing guy, producer. After that, I started working with more guys on more indie things, and then me and my friends decided to start our own, studio, and we started New Blood in like 2014. We started working on some prototype stuff that never happened. Originally started working on a lot of VR stuff because VR was like super up and coming in 2014. Now we're
Hmm.
kind of like pretty bored with it, and working on like just regular old games. But when we started New Blood, we were making a bunch of VR prototypes and fun shit. Eventually pivoted towards helping people out with their games, became like a kind of a publisher. And then as our team grew, we started working on more stuff internally. And then, sometime around early 2016, as we were putting out Super Galaxy Squadron EX Turbo, which is a shmup that we put out with our buddy Nick Clinkscales, good dude. This guy who I had never heard of, and he followed three people on Twitter. He followed John Romero, Tom Hall, and me on Twitter. And I said, wow, I'm in some pretty good company, man. And he tweeted at me, and he said, hey, man, I'm working on this game. You should check it out. And it was David. It was David Szymanski, and the game was Dusk. He sent me a build, and it was just one room with a lot of boxes and a sink and a toilet and some weapons, no enemies, and you could just jump around and, mess with everything. And it was amazing. It was already, all the movement and everything you feel in Dusk already was basically already there, all the interactivity. He had already nailed the look and feel, and I was like, holy shit, there's something special here. I sent it to Aaron, my co-founder at New Blood, who works with Dean Hall down in New Zealand, and he was like, holy shit, this is something special here. So I got back to David, and I was like, I want to work with you on this. I want to be your producer. I want to, bring you into New Blood and make this game with you. And he didn't believe me at first. He was like, "No, I don't know. I make walking sims. Nobody's actually wants to invest in me and work." I'm like, "No, there's something really special here. I know it's like just one room right now, but like I'm telling you, there's something here. I haven't felt a game that feels like this ever. You just totally nailed the movement and the feel of the weapons. I want to work with you on this." And 2 days later, we had a contract, and that was in. Yeah, that was like in the middle of 2016. By Quakecon 2016, we had the game ready to show with an endless mode we've been working on for a while. Sometime in the middle of that, I got Andrew Holschult, who I had worked with on Rise of the Triad, and who had been working with 3D Realms, and is most known for redoing the whole Doom soundtrack. I showed him Dusk. He's like, absolutely. He got involved. And he's like, I really want to get a real, Trent Reznor, and Sonic Mayhem, Sasha vibe going with this. I really want to, work on my industrial chops and really fucking, get that going for this game. I think it would fit perfectly with the Quake vibe. So we got Andrew involved, and all the pieces kind of fit together. And then so by QuakeCon 2016, we were ready to show it, and then we officially unveiled it at I think it was PAX 2016. Yeah, it was like September 2016. We showed a trailer for the three new Blood games, which was Laser Type, Tonight We Riot, and Dusk. And then like a month later, we sent out Dusk with the trailer, and it like blew up. It was posted like everywhere, like big name media outlets, like even like the Next Web, and like people who only post about like iPhone shit. We're like, this game that looks like it's from the 90s. It blew up. Trailer got like 100,000 views. And the coolest part is like we had it ready to go. Like we had a pre-alpha build that we were ready to send the press like immediately. So we sent it. And then guys were checking out, guys like Jim Sterling and Total Biscuit and stuff, and everybody was liking it. So we're like, okay, we really do have something really, really special here. And then like a year and a half later, here we are. We've put out episode 1, and then we put out episode 2 and Endless and early access, and now it's out in early access. We've sold like 20,000 copies. It's overwhelmingly positive on Steam. It's the highest rated first-person shooter on Steam. It's the 23rd highest rated game on Steam. Out of 18,000 something games on Steam, Dusk is number 23, which is wild. And we're just really happy with the way things are going. We got a really cool community. We got guys, we're doing tournaments. We've got speedrunners that are going crazy trying to beat each other's times. So yeah, Dusk is really kind of taken off. I mean, we knew it was special, but like, 2 years on, it's just really cool to see how everyone's responded to it, how the community's really gotten behind it, and it feels good. You know, it feels really good to wake up every day and read like really nice comments and reviews about your game, because I've been on the other side of the coin, you know, where you wake up and, you know, fucking IGN's giving your game a 4, and people are telling you how much it's broken and you suck. So like it's good to, you know, it's good to like, you know, put in the work and know that you're you know, that it's rewarded the right way, and that your customers are happy, man. Happy customers, happy life. You know, it's like happy life. Except I'm married to my customers, right? I'm not married to any woman. I'm married to my customers, man. If they're happy, I'm happy. And that's where we're at. And we're looking to finish episode 3. You know, we're getting there. I was testing it last night. I put up some screenshots on Twitter. We're about up to like, you know, E3 M4. You know, we're getting really crazy with it, and we figured, me and David have figured out what we want to do with the ending. We think it's going to be really cool. Really want to stick the landing. Really want the payoff at the end to be like really, really cool, like really big payoff, the kind of shit that people have been waiting for, trying to figure out like what the hell's going on with this story. I'm like, just wait till the end, man. The payoff will be there. And then on the Duskworld side, Scott and Cam and Logan and the other dudes that are working on Duskworld, just adding features, getting that ready to 1.0, new maps, new player models, spectator mode, custom maps. You know, we got our dude Zombie working on the SDK, so after that we'll have the SDK and Steam Workshop support. Nice. And then we're going to do co-op. We've already got a really cool we've got a really cool crossover promotion that we're going to do for co-op with a character from another iconic game that we think people are really going to like. We've set that in motion a long time ago. So I mean, we're going to be working on Dusk for a long time, man. We're playing the long game with this thing. We're going to be working on Dusk for at least, you know, the next year or two. Probably hopefully putting it to consoles, you know, Switch and PlayStation, Xbox, you know, who knows. And that's, you know, just one day at a time. When you have fun working on, you know, the game you're working on, you can just do it forever.
Oh yeah, of course. And definitely, I just want to say congratulations to you, the other Dave, and the rest of the team on the success of Dusk so far. I played it. I think I was one of the guys you sound like the pre-alpha build to. Again, it feels like it's been like a year. It probably feels more than like 2 or 3 years for you guys. But yeah, there's definitely some amazing gameplay there. And I am sure it's resonating with a lot of fans of classic FPS design.
Sure.
But my wish decided to go out there, but we certainly have a lot more to talk about today.
Yeah, I just gave you a big old history lesson on in Dusk and stuff.
So you mentioned a few minutes ago how Dave got in touch with you and showed you the original like prototype for Dusk, the one room. So
yeah. I
guess the first question then, this is one thing that I wanted to ask you about. When it comes to that kind of classic FPS design, if you had to, you know, encapsulate or put in a nutshell, what do you think, you know, is indicative of that classic design that people fall in love with?
Well, so from what I've seen, excuse me, obviously it's the level design, right? Unlike games that you can just play forever or that change all the time, people like learning the levels, mastering the levels, knowing where all the secrets are, seeing how fast they can do it, playing the levels in different ways. 100%ing for me, I figured this out when we were working on Rise of the Triad, and I got the guys to put in the escape menu. We finally put in a coin counter and an enemy counter to show you all the stuff, how many coins out of coins you got in the level, how many enemies were left to kill. And when you got to 100%, you get this really cool little dopamine release in your brain, like, yay, I did the thing. And that feeling that you get when you're just kind of going around and poking around and exploring, as well as getting involved in these really crazy combat encounters, there's a feeling that's an evocative feeling that it's hard to explain. That feels like those games in the 90s. It feels like Unreal, feels like Quake, feels like Doom. And it's a feeling that you can replicate. It's that combination of fun, interesting level design, a little bit of puzzles, really fun combat encounters, and making the player feel accomplished when they get everything done and then move on to the next. It's like, I have conquered this, on to the next. Feel like you want the player to feel like the conquering hero. I don't like FPSs where the player feels like really weak and overpowered, right? I mean, the one constant in all these games is like you are this crazy badass, and sure there's a lot of them, but none of them individually are even close to you. You're always faster or stronger, or you've got cooler weapons, or they've got weaknesses, and the only weakness for you is your ability. It's never the thing about those games is when you die or when you messed up, it was never the game. It was never your fault. I'm sorry, it was never the game's fault, right? That's when
Hmm.
players get frustrated when it's like this is not fair. It always feels like it's your fault. Like, well, I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I overreached. Maybe I shouldn't have run into that room, with 17 barons of hell. Maybe I should have, hung back a bit. So it's the same thing with Dusk. We've got that feeling, whereas the game never feels unfair. When you die, it's your fault. You just want to reload and keep going. It's the kind of game where when I'm testing it, I'll be like, all right, I'm just going to test 2 levels. Next thing I know, I'm like, testing like 7 levels, and I'm up till like 4 a.m., which is how I know it's good, because I'm
Yeah.
playing it. Be playing anything else.
Hmm. And I'm glad you mentioned the gameplay or the combat a few minutes ago, Dave, because that's another major part of that old school charm is the gunplay that goes around with these weapons, be it from how they fire to the sound effects and all that. I guess for you, in terms of Dusk's gunplay, how did you guys settle on that feel? Like that, the old school FPS gunplay feel of it.
I mean, it's just, David. It's mimicking. I mean, for animation wise, it's just giving the right amount of feedback and camera movement, and then with the sound, it's making them as boomy and visceral as possible. Andrew and David, go back and forth and really work on these sounds, so it just feels good. And David's got a lot of experience with sound design because he comes from making horror games. Where sound is so important, especially
Hmm.
with indie horror games where you can't do much visually. So the sound is so important to communicate all the horror. So I mean, David's just really good at sound design. Then when you bring Andrew in there, who's basically Andrew's a pro at this point, um, to just kind of tweak it, that's how you get really good feeling weapons. And I mean, David's just been with the camera movement and stuff for Dusk, it just feels so good. Just the right amount of head bob, the right amount of screen shake, the right amount of knockback.
Hmm.
You just tweak it till it feels good. You know when it feels good. I
Yeah.
mean, like Quake feels so good. That boom 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 boom, blah 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 blah. It just once it feels good, it feels good. You know when it feels good when you put a bunch of slugs in the chest of a thing and it falls over and you get that connection. It's not like real life. You shoot guns in real life, you don't really feel much when they hit cardboard targets, but in games, you got to amp that up. You got to hit that sight and sound. It's a
Yeah.
connection of sight and sound. The thing travels a distance. When it ends the distance, it hits something. Feel it hit something with a little thwap, you know. And then it falls over and it feels good. It feels like you have to connect. You have to connect the animations and the sound to what's happening on the other side of the screen, so it feels like you're doing something.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it feels empty. I felt a lot of shooters where it just feels empty because there's no impact. There's no feedback. And
Yeah.
that's so important. I played a lot of modern shooters too, like modern indie shooters, where they've got really cool art design and sound design and stuff. And then you go and shoot the guns, it just feels like shit. There's nothing. It's
Yeah.
like feels like nothing happening. Like I'm firing confetti at nothing burgers.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the most important thing. Like I said, when David sent me that one room build, he already nailed that. Like the weapon and movement feel was already there. So like all we had to do now was just go and build the game.
Hmm.
Obviously, we've tweaked the movement and stuff since then, and the weapons and the weapon sounds. We've tweaked it a bit, but he already nailed it. I mean, all the credit in the world to David. I mean, he understood exactly how to make the game feel like the way it does. And then we've had, he things like sliding and flipping, 180 degrees in the air. That kind of stuff's never been done in a retro FPS before. So it adds, these little things to the movement. They give you this freedom that you just didn't have in the older games. Like in Quake, people think, oh, Dusk is like Quake. Go back and play Quake, man. Quake's got no air control. There's no
Hmm.
freedom of movement. It's very limiting.
Yeah.
Um, it's hard to go play anything after playing Dusk because Dusk makes bunny hopping. Dusk, anyone can bunny hop. Anyone, Dusk makes everyone feel like a Quake Live pro. Normally, that skill-based movement is hard in those games. In
Yeah.
Dusk, anyone, just as long as you're holding A or D while you're jumping, you're going to go faster. You hit control, you're going to slide. You spin your mouse, you're going to flip in the air. We give you complete control, which is there's never been a game that controls quite like Dusk, for better or for worse. I mean, the majority of people, 90% of people think it's amazing. Then we've got that 10% of like hardcore Quake players that thinks the movement's too easy. But I'll side with the 90% who enjoy feeling like a badass because they're just not, a pro. And I'm one of them. And so is David. We're not good at multiplayer shooters. We're not good at Dusk World. We're not good at Quake Live. We're not good at Reflex. We're not good at Unreal Tournament. We're just not. Me and David we're single player, old school FPS gamers.
Yeah, I'm horrible.
So enjoy the fact that Dusk makes anyone feel like they can have skill-based movement, even if we're not skilled. I play with auto aim on a little bit just because I like doing dumb shit. If you turn auto aim half the way up and do a flip and shoot at a guy and you're not quite on target, you're still gonna hit him and it feels good. It's accessible to bad players and good players alike.
I am horrible at a lot of multiplayer-based shooters. I can't play like Call of Duty or even Overwatch. I'm just terrible at those games. But I'm found myself to be pretty good at Dusk. I've already finished the 2 episodes at this point. But to clarify what you were just talking about, Dave, regarding the gunplay and that feel, that's such a very interesting topic, and I think I agree with you that a lot of people or a lot of developers tend to struggle with getting that feel just right. Like
I think the problem is that they don't get it first, right? They do all that stuff, and then they forget the important stuff. Which is the basics. You got to get the basics right first. You got to get the core stuff down. If you're making a shooter, the shooting is very important. I don't like your art style and your music and the amount of levels and secrets is cool, but if it doesn't feel good to shoot things in a shooter, then what are you doing?
Yeah, and when I think about some of the modern or even not so modern RPSs that I felt did manage to do it right, I guess only a few really come to my mind. Like the big one would be the original Stalker. Have you ever played that one, Dave?
Yeah, David's a big. There's a lot of Stalker in Dusk. I mean, there's like a lot of X16 and X18. David ripped like literally like exact scenes, and those are in Dusk. You can I noticed some. I never played Stalker until recently, and I was playing Shadow of Chernobyl. I played that for a bit, then I skipped right to Call of Pripyat because it's way better. But yeah, David's a huge Stalker fan, so there's a lot of Stalker in Dusk, more so than people probably realize. But that's one of the games that I would put up as saying the shooting does not feel good. I do not enjoy I enjoy shooting of the guns, but there's a real disconnect there. If you stab something in Stalker, nothing happens. There's no sploosh, there's no impact sound. The knife just kind of goes bleh, and the thing just kind of falls over. I appreciate Stalker for the world building, and the exploration and the atmosphere. I think that's what most people, really love about Stalker is the atmosphere, especially, when you get into the labs and stuff like that, into the deep, dark recesses of the zone. And obviously, there's a lot of enemies, well, not a lot of enemies, but, enemies that are like bloodsuckers are literally the Wendigos from Dusk. It's the same exact enemy. They start invisible and then they lunge at you. Same thing. Actually, Dusk is literally just Stalker with bad graphics.
There's your new marketing point there, Dave.
Yeah, it's like Stalker. But yeah, there's a lot of Stalker in Dusk. Like a lot more than I realized. David always talks about how much Stalker is in Dusk, but until I played it recently, I didn't realize just how much. There was. All Dusk needs is, some, cheeky breaky vodka, and it's literally the same game.
There we go. Perfect. And, yeah, like, as you were saying, Dave, like, you can tell the difference when you're playing a lot of first-person shooters between the ones that really get that foundation of the gunplay down versus the ones that it just kind of feels ancillary or supplemental to the game. Like, I've played a lot, like, for me, like, some of, like, the big AAA examples that don't work for me would be stuff like the BioShock games, Deus Ex, like, games where it's more of the RPG first rather than the FPS. And, like, your example a few minutes ago regarding not getting that tactile, or that tactical or tactile feel. Like, when I play, like, BioShock, and I shoot someone with a shotgun, and they go, like, ugh, and all you see is, like, their little, like, health bar drop, it's like, why am I just really shooting this guy at this point? Like, really?
I remember Bioshock and Infinite having pretty good gunplay. I don't remember them having bad gunplay. Um, and same for Deus Ex. I mean, Deus Ex is more of an RPG.
Yeah.
I always play it as a stealth game. Like, if you're playing Deus Ex and you're running around with a machine gun, I feel like you're wrong. You know, Deus Ex is a game about ventilation ducts,
Exactly,
and silenced pistols, you know, and using the environment. But I don't remember Bioshock having bad gunplay. It's been a while. I mean, Infinite came out in what, 2012?
Yeah, I'm thinking about like the original one way back. What was I like early
2000? I think that was 2006. Was the original?
Could have been.
Yeah, I tried to play the HD remake or whatever, but it had all kinds of issues, and I quit.
Yeah, I've heard that from other people too.
Yeah, good job, 2K. Free money. Messed up. I never understand when people get like they mess up with free money. It's like HD remakes are literally free money, especially if you're like if you got a huge budget and stuff. You know, like 2K is this giant international, corporation. You know, they can put like a few $100,000 into really making it good, but instead they just kind of like poop it out.
Yeah.
Wild.
Now, a quick question for you, Dave. As you said a few minutes ago, when David got in touch with you in 2016 with the original build, or with the original prototype, how long was he working on Dusk previously?
I think someone just tweeted and said the audio is popping a lot. Well, that's not my problem. David was working on Dusk, mostly just the year before that. I think you can go on YouTube and find the earliest videos of Dusk in like January 2016 or like late 2015. So not too long. He was working on it for a few months before that. But he's had the idea in his head since, he's done some interviews since he was a teenager. He always wanted to make a game like this. And the cool thing about Dusk is it's all David's brain, with my guidance, so to speak, helping him, flesh this out into a full 3-episode thing. I mean, when we first started, we didn't know what Dusk was going to be, and then, as time went on, we kind of figured out the structure that we wanted. I mean, originally it was going to be kind of like a Quake type deal where you can play. We were going to have a bunch of episodes, and you could play them in any order. And then eventually we came up with this more Cabin in the Woods type structure after we realized we were making Cabin in the Woods, and I made David go watch Cabin in the Woods. So he's kind of wanted to do, and the cool thing is, like, it's all his art, all his animation. Some people criticize the art, like blah 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 blah. I mean, but it's endearing because it's all him. It's what he's capable of. It's all his level design. It's all his art. It's all his sound. And it really shows that this is just like a one man being pushed to make the game that he always had in his head with the tools that he has available to his disposal. Like, I could very easily get our 3D guys, and environment guys to make Dusk look really fucking pretty, right? We can make Dusk look like a medieval if we wanted to. We can make Dusk look like a Quake source port. We can do really HD textures and models with a few more fucking tries and stuff. But like, why? It wouldn't feel like David's game if we did that, right? Plus, it would take a lot longer.
Yeah.
If we wanted to, if Dusk does really well, we'll do Dusk 2 with graphics. Like, I keep telling people that, like, we can make this kind of a game with graphics with the people we've got in the New Blood family. Like, no problem. We could totally make Dusk with graphics. But if you wanted Dusk the way it is now to have awesome graphics, it would first of all, it would take way longer, and it wouldn't be the same game. It wouldn't be as endearing. So, anytime anybody's like, blah, 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 Minecraft graphics, I'm like, just shut up and play it. That 98% approval rating on Steam you can't fake that, If you can't deal with the graphics, just wait for mods. Somebody will do an HD texture mod. Somebody, don't worry about it. There will be graphics one day.
The Metsman in chat said he wants to know. It sounds like Dusk HD that should be coming in 2028. I guess, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, Dusk 2020.
Exactly, but it's very interesting again about how all this really adds to that feel of the old school FPS. I guess a question for you, Dave. Obviously, one of the big major successes for FPSs that have came out since Dusk was in development would be Doom 2016. And that
Yeah.
was like the first time in a really long time that a lot of modern FPS fans got to see that kind of old school design, but of
Yeah.
course with a very, very fancy engine. So
Yeah.
I guess what did you guys think of playing Doom 2016, being
We
old
love.
school FPS fans?
I mean, we love Dude 2016, but it's basically perfect as far as I'm concerned. And the cool thing about there's a lot of Dusk. I mean, the story structure. I don't know if people realize this yet. The story structure of Dusk basically is the same as Doom 2016, except Olivia is the cult leader. It's literally the same fucking story. Um, but yeah, we love Doom 2016. It's great. It's awesome. There's nothing about it I really don't like. I 100%ed that game. I mean, obviously, it's not, that classic FPS, feel. It's got, it's big, it's open, you got double jumping, and all these RPG style upgrades. You can play the game a million different ways, but it's all there. Really cool. It's the same basic principles. Really cool encounters. A really interesting level design, tons of secrets that make you feel rewarded, like getting the little fucking Doom Guy dolls or so. That's like so cool. I love those. I 100% of the game. I had to use a guide, right? Because like it's not. But some of those secrets are hard.
Oh, yeah.
Those maps are super vertical, and the map in that game, like the interactive map, is like so good. It's like its own game using the map. But it's the same principles, right? Really cool encounters, really cool, hand design levels that you can play a number of different ways, really cool secrets, and making the player feel really accomplished and badass and moving on to the next one. The exact same principles are there. Plus, the guns are really good. I mean, some could give or take. Like, the pistol in Doom 2016 is useless. It's, like, the most useless hunk of garbage, like, ever. Like, I don't know how they decided on that. Like, why not just a fist like you had in... the only time you get to use your fist in Doom 2016 is when you get the Berserker power up, which is awesome, by the way, just ripping dudes apart. Yeah. But, like in the original Doom, you just punch shit to death with, like, your pointy ring on your finger. I guess it was kind of like the same pistol, even though the pistol in Doom 2016 is like an energy pistol thing. But even when it's all leveled up, it still sucks. I don't know. I would have been happier with, like, a Desert Eagle or a revolver or anything so the pistol sucked. The machine gun I thought was a weird choice, even though it was cool with little mini rockets. But machine gun doesn't feel very Doom to me. The double barrel shotgun was obviously awesome, but I mean, the standout to me, I think, was just the single shotgun, just like it was in the original Doom. I'm a single shotgun guy. Never been a fan of the super shotgun. Wasn't a fan of it, and everyone tells me I'm crazy for this. Wasn't a fan of it in Doom 2. Not a fan of it in Doom 2016. I mean, I got used to it in Doom 2016. It's when it's leveled up, you can fire both barrels individually, boom, boom. It just, I don't know, there's a disconnect to me. The single shotgun, the boom, boom, will always be my favorite thing in any first-person shooter, which is why I was so happy when, we got it to feel the way it does in Dusk, especially with the dual shotguns and the reloading, which was Andrew's idea. Andrew's always got some of the best gameplay ideas, so he's like, hey, can we make it reload like, Arnold in Terminator 2 when he's riding the bike through the LA Aqueduct, when he spins it around and he's chasing, John. And then David did it, and we're like, yep, that'll do. That's perfect. Then when you've got two of them, it's boom, boom, boom. It just feels really good. I mean, I love that. I mean, when it feels good, and you know it. But Doom 2016, fucking love Doom 2016. From as far as I'm concerned, it's perfect. The multiplayer you could take or leave it. I had a bunch of fun with the Doom multiplayer. I know everyone hates it because it's not classic enough and it's not like modern enough. It kind of fell somewhere in between, but I liked it a lot actually because I was actually kind of good at it. I don't think it needed it at all. Like, it didn't need multiplayer. I mean, that's the whole reason Quake Champions exists, right? Why did you need to even make Doom multiplayer? Doom was never about multiplayer. And if you tell me it was, then you're lying, because I was alive in 1992, playing on a 24/4 modem, getting death matches with people, and it wasn't fun or easy to do, Deathmatch was not really a thing until Quake came along. I mean, the only people I know that play Doom Deathmatch are John Romero at GDC and the people who line up to play versus him at GDC. Doom was never a multiplayer game. Quake was its multiplayer game. So I think Doom 2016 could have very much done without multiplayer. And the snap map thing is cool, but it's obviously, I don't think it'll ever be as cool as like full-blown SDK and modding. There's some very cool snap maps, but I never spent a lot of time with it. I made a couple, and I was like, it was easy. It was for sure easy. Like, it was cool that they made it so easy. I like that. But I mean, it'll never be as robust as a full SDK. But at the same time, I don't think you can make a full. I think they've tried with IdTech. They tried it for Rage, right? They released the whole thing. It was like 300 gigabytes, and like nobody used it. It's just too obtuse. It's the IdTech 6 is like a very complicated fucking engine. So I think SnapMap was cool. I don't know. It'll never be the same as full modding. But Doom 2016, the single player campaign, that's as good as it gets. I love it to death. As far as I'm concerned, it's perfect. There's a lot of inspiration from that in Dusk as well as the original Doom. So, yeah, love it.
All right. Another question in chat from the Metsman. After Dusk and Medieval, is there another type or theme old school shooter New Blood wants to bring back to present day?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about stuff. I mean, especially, now that we've got Leon and Simo who came over, who worked with us previously on Triad and stuff, and we had been talking about some stuff. I mean, obviously, I'd like to do something with some more RPG elements, and the guys would too. I'd love to do a game like Strife, like FPS RPG hybrid, if you remember Strife, which was basically, it was a Doom clone with RPG stuff. We walk around and talk to people and get quests, but it's in the Doom engine. It's available on Steam, thanks to Night Dive Studios. Strife Veteran Edition, something like that. We've talked about doing like, a Descent terminal velocity type thing. I don't think, Descent doesn't really hold up today, that kind of claustrophobic 6th degree of freedom gameplay. There's been like, 17 Descent spiritual successors now in the past 3 years, and they all suck. Like, none of them are good. Plus, I've installed Descent 2 and HD modded it out the ass a million times. It's just not, I play like 2 levels and I'm like, I'm nauseous and not having fun. It's just, it doesn't hold up. It's just not, it's one of those genres that I just think is not, it's just done. It's right up there with car combat and point and click adventures. It's just not a thing these days. It's just kind of a dead genre. It can be integrated into other games. I think 6DOF claustrophobic games were made that way because back then you couldn't really make open, games. You had like Wing Commander and stuff, but like nowadays you've got, these games like, you've got true giant space games where you can fly around and have. So that's why I think if we're going to do something like that, it'd be more of like a terminal velocity type thing with big open areas, and occasionally you've got the claustrophobic areas. We've talked about stuff like that. Obviously, I'd really like to do an isometric Fallout 1 style RPG. I mean, I've talked about that a lot. I'd like to write again. I haven't written anything in God knows how long, besides like the random bits of lore and Dusk and shit like that. And marketing copy. All I write these days is fucking marketing copy and Steam pages. It's doesn't really let me use more than 2% of my brain. But yeah, we've talked about stuff like that. Obviously, if we did like a Dusk 2, we'd want to like we wouldn't want to just make it hyper realistic, right? We want to choose an art style. So maybe we'd like go with like an Unreal 1 type look. Or maybe we'd go with like I don't even know. I can't even think of something. Depends. We'd have to pick a style and go with it. Same with and with a Medieval. I've talked to Leon and stuff. If that does well, we'd want to probably do like prequel episodes and stuff. The cool things about games like Dusk and a Medieval, you can always add to them, right? As long as they're better than Doom Episode 4, thy levels consumed. Which I know I'm really not a fan of Doom Episode 4 through Doom 2. I think I think the first 3 episodes of Doom 1 are basically perfect, and after that it's all just like fucking levels mashed together. I'm not a fan of Doom 2 really. I'm like the only guy I know who's just not a fan.
And
I think it got away from itself. But yeah, we've talked about stuff like that. Obviously, we've talked to the Apogee guys about doing more stuff with Rise of the Triad. That would be really cool. I mean, obviously, I still want to fix and add to the stuff that we promised people we do with Rise of the Triad, 2013. But that's not up to me, right? I wasn't in charge of that project.
Yeah, and you mentioned a few minutes ago regarding Descent. Yeah, I remember that game back in the day. I'm right with you with that game making me nauseous after playing it for a few minutes.
Yeah, especially now, it's just not the same. I mean, it really makes you nauseous, especially with the HD monitors and stuff. It's not fun. Descent is not fun. And there's like 20 people who will disagree with me, and those are the 20 people who bought all 6 of Descent spiritual successors that came out on Kickstarter.
I guess another question for you, once again, regarding that kind of the level design field. You mentioned, of course, some of the issues you had with the later episodes of Doom, and level design is definitely one of the more interesting aspects between old school and modern FPSs. I'm sure you are well aware of that famous graphic people put out about, modern first-person shooter level design versus classic first-person shooter level design.
Yeah, with the linear stuff. Yeah, we actually put that out in 2012 for Rise of the Triad. Mm-hmm. There's a picture of the level design. I mean, we like old school level design. It's not easy. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of iteration, making the levels feel fun. But obviously less maze-like than the 90s. In the 90s, especially when you got with the Doom clones and stuff like Rise of the Triad and games like that, and the Doom like level packs and shit, and even the Duke and Shadow Warrior add-ons and stuff. A lot of those levels just got just like real big and mazy and boring and dumb. With stupid little puzzle sections and platforming. It's just not, you have to strike a balance. If at any time I feel when I'm going through the levels in Dusk and working on them with David, if I feel like this is where the player will get hung up or lost or have to backtrack, then that's something we have to change. I'm very big on flow and harping on the critical path of the levels. Making sure that it's that the player's always moving forward, always knows where to go. Like Dust doesn't have a map, and it doesn't really need one because the player's never really going to get lost. And David talks a lot about this space and moving around in this space, and viewing it from different angles, so you'll always kind of know where you are and where you've been. And it's we never people never really haven't gotten hung up so far. We feel like we've really nailed that balance with Dusk Episode 2. And that's just going to continue. I mean, you can see in Dusk, like, the evolution of David's level design skill. I mean, it's one thing, because he studied, all the old Romero levels and Sandy Peterson levels and stuff, all the good ones. And, he's been putting those into practice slowly, and you can see how his level design chops have really just grown through the levels in Dusk. Like, E1M1 of Dusk compared to, like, the Escher Labs in, Dusk Episode 2 is, like, far and away better. And Episode 3 is just... continuing to expand on that, and he's gotten really good. And people can tell, and I can tell, and it's just great to see him, grow and change and become more confident in his level design, make bigger, crazier stuff, but still levels where the player always knows where they are and knows where they're going, and striking that good balance of cool enemy encounters and fun secret hunting, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and definitely you can see, as you just said, David, the quality of the level design growing from Episode 1 to Episode 2. Like, you just mentioned the Escher Labs. That was a really good one. I also like the level that took place in, like, that kind of, like, Sky City. I think it was, like, 2 or 3 levels after that one. And again, it's just, like, a very interesting change of pace that keeps the player moving forward. And there's also, I think there's a greater discussion to be had about, again, Dusk isn't using, Unreal 4, id Tech graphics, but it still looks visually distinctive enough that you can reasonably tell where you're at in the level, that you're not feeling that sense of loss of just going down the same corridor, just, been copy and pasted 15 times in that level.
Yeah. It's, and I've also harped a lot on David on, set dressing and stuff, making these areas feel really plausible. Which sometimes he's like, oh, really? But now he knows, now, originally when we were going through Dusk, it'd be just like empty houses and empty hallways. I'm like, man, there's got to be pictures here. There's got to be barrels and, stuff on the ground and food on the table. And there's one example I like to give where he had put a goat, which we call Dark Steven, because we can't call him Black Phillip because we'll get sued by the guys who made The Witch. So there was a Dark Steven behind a house in E1M2, the level with the corn maze and stuff, the second level of the game, down on the farm. And he had put a goat back there behind the house. I'm like, well, what's the goat doing behind the house? He's like, I don't know, I just put him back there. I'm like, well, put a pole and a rope so it looks like, maybe he broke free. He was tied up back there and he got away. So he put a little thing back there, and then a YouTuber was playing and he got there. And he walked by that and he got to the goat and he saw the thing and he's like, oh, the goat got off his leash. And I was like, see, it's plausible. Somebody realized that there has to be a reason for everything. When we put two leathernecks behind a house, I'm like, well, what were they doing back there? Put some chairs and a fire and some beers. They were hanging out, they were talking. Plus, then you could drink those beers. You could put stuff on the fire. You can throw stuff around. It adds to the interactivity as well as the plausibility. And people will say, well, like nobody notices that shit, but that's not true. If you all these tiny little things, spread out over the course of the whole game, are what gives it that identity and what gives it the atmosphere
and that personality as well.
Yeah, the person. If it's just some buildings and a bunch of enemies just sprinkled around, like okay, here's a level and here's a bunch of enemies and here's some geometry. It's not the same. The world has to feel alive, and it's all the little things and people figuring out that they can do things like cook. They can cook viscera. They could light a fire, cook viscera on a fire, take that cooked viscera, flush it down a toilet, shoot the toilet. It's you can do all these dumb things, or you can not do them. And that's, I think, what made especially games like Duke and Shadow Warrior and the Build Engine games so cool. Is all that the interactivity with the little things that you could take or leave, but it gave it so much personality. I mean, sure, Duke Nukem was about badass weapons and one-liners and stuff like that, but it was just as much about interactivity and stuff. Going to the strip club and tipping the strippers, or looking in the mirror and saying, "Damn, I'm looking good," or shooting aliens on the aliens sitting on the toilet and shooting them on the toilet. Like imagine if that wasn't there, right? If there was just a bunch of aliens just around, but one wasn't pooping. Like that's it just that's where the personality of those games come from. So Dusk, even though Dusk Dude doesn't have that kind of Duke Nukem, Caleb, Lo Wang personality, there's still all that the staples of those 90s games that made them so memorable.
Question I was asked in chat a few minutes ago: any interest in working on source ports if you get the rights for them?
Yeah, I mean, we've got some really good guys like Zombie, who's the guy making the SDK for Dusk. We've got guys who are really good at that kind of stuff. Obviously, nobody's as good as Kaiser, who works at Night Dive, who's done the source ports for everything. I mean, he's the man, right? And Steve's got him under his wing. There's actually some ones that they haven't released yet that they're doing. But yeah, we'd be interested in it. Obviously, we'd love to do Blood. I mean, everyone who works in the retro shooter space would love to do Blood, but fucking Atari and Warner Brothers got that one all wrapped up tighter than Fort Knox. Who knows what's going on with that IP? And we certainly don't have the money or the influence to make it happen. But yeah, we love that kind of stuff. But I mean, as far as the re-release HD source port stuff goes, I mean, I think the world's kind of left all that to Night Dive and Kaiser at this point, because I mean, that's what they do, right?
And I know there's a lot of old school FPS fans in chat. I'm going to shock them with this one, but I've yet to play Blood. That's one of those games that's on my list. I haven't had a chance.
People, man. So Blood's, the reason why Blood has got such a cult thing is that, and Gareth, the Australian YouTuber dude, GGG Man, he did a video not too long ago about Blood source ports, and in it he was talking about how like Blood, there's the 3 Build Engine games, right? There's Blood, there's Duke, and there's Shadow Warrior. Those are the 3 like the holy trinity of Build Engine games. And while Duke and Shadow Warrior have gotten all these HD remakes and reboots and all this treatment, Blood's always just kind of like people are stuck playing like half-baked source ports or DOSBox versions of it. And it's because the IP's in such fucking such a shitty state that nobody's been able to go and really make it accessible these days. And because of that, a lot of people never played it and haven't been able to play it. There's no Megaton edition for Blood. There's no reboot or anything like that, which is unfortunate because Blood is most people consider the best Build Engine game. Better. It's certainly. I mean, I think Duke's my favorite, and then just because it was so iconic and such a big part of my childhood. But Blood for me is right behind it. Just because Caleb's so cool and the weapons are so cool and such cool level and enemy design. And plus, I was never a big Shadow Warrior fan. It just felt like I don't know. I was just never too into it, except for the throwing stars. That was always fun. I don't know. Just never really got into Lo Wang and Shadow Warrior. But yeah, Blood is a lot of people say that, they're like, oh, I never played Blood, and the problem is if you never played it and you go to play it now, it's not a easy experience. It's not a fun experience. You're playing some janky DOSBox version. It doesn't have the MIDI music. It's got like the CD music, which is like not. You always want to play with the MIDI music, right? The fucking CD audio is like all orchestral and stuff, but you want that that cool pumping '90s MIDI music. It's not the same, so that's the problem with Blood. Hopefully one day somebody can figure that out. Hopefully like Night Dive or Devolver or somebody who's got like a bunch of money can figure out what's going on with the Blood IP, wrestle it away from Warner Brothers and Atari. I think it's more Warner Brothers and Atari at this point. I don't know. I mean, I think Atari's, who knows what they're doing these days. They're working on that Atari box. I know that.
I know. We'll see what happens with that one.
Yeah, it should be cool. I mean, I'll put games on it, whatever. But yeah, so Blood. I mean, that's the as far as all of us retro, shooter diehards go. I mean, Blood is the, it's the final frontier, right? It's the it's the Ark of the Covenant. One day it'll be opened and it'll kill us all.
There you go. Perfect. Let me see. I'm going to do a quick time check here. We are just coming to the hour, maybe a little bit less than that for the stream. So
wow, time flies.
I know these. I told you before. For those of you watching, I told Dave just before we started that every time I say we're going to go for a set time, it's going to be very quick. We always go long. Like that's how these chats work. Because there's so much to talk about. I'm sure we're going to probably miss a few things between now and the end of things, or the end of our cast. But for those of you watching this live, if you have any more questions for Dave, definitely feel free to get them in. In terms of a soft stop point, will probably be about an hour, 20, hour and 30. I think that's probably going to be like around the time we're going to probably say goodnight. So we still have some time now for any more questions regarding Dusk or FPS design. So one thing that we haven't talked about yet, at least in terms of Dusk, is the weapon designs. Now, of course, we mentioned the feel of the weapons and, the reloading animation of the shotguns and such. But in terms of design the actual weapons, I guess, how did David approach what weapons he wanted in Dusk? From, we have pistols, shotguns, and then we have stuff like a Highlander sword, the Zelda sword you can pick up, or the cannon, or a crossbow, and so on.
Well, I mean, I can't, speak, for David, but I think obviously, the pistols are pistols, shotguns are shotguns. Those were inspired by Doom. Then the hunting rifle is, we wanted a long-range weapon and a weapon that you could zoom, and there was kind of a one-shot bolt-action rifle. Which is good because the world needs bolt-action rifles. The world doesn't need AR-15s, but the hunting rifles and pistols are just fine. And then the AR, which is in there. You got to have the the fast shooting thing. Mm-hmm. The crossbow is obviously inspired by Hexen and Heretic and stuff. Grenade launchers, you need a lobbing gun that can lob for things, and then we have the little, you can detonate them when you want with right click. It's got the little alt fire, They're all kind of just like staples. The Riveter's the rocket launcher, and then the sword, which we're working on changing a bit for episode 3, is, we wanted the melee weapons to be, actually useful, right? So one of the first things when originally Dusk had like a hammer, and it was just like, it was really, I don't get it. It was boring, it was stupid, and I go back to the axe in Quake 1, which is useless. It is absolutely useless, the axe in Quake. So I wanted a melee weapon that would be cool and useful. And I was thinking about, I was like, what had cool starting thing? And I was playing Hexen 2, I was like, man, it's really cool when you start Hexen 2 and you just like mash your fists together as a paladin and you go boom, boom, and and you could just start with the dual fists. So I think it should be a dual weapon. I went from hammer, and then I was like, well, maybe a hammer and a sickle, and then we were like, too communist. So then I was like, well, what about just 2 sickles? And what if you took them out and you like was shing shing together, kind of like the way the paladin mashes his fists together in Hexen 2, and David did that, and you take out the sickles, you go shing shing, and then they just you've got 2 sickles, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then it's been like that ever since. And not only are they fun to use, they're useful as a throwback weapon. And you could knock projectiles back with them and stuff. And it's a fun starting weapon. It's a fun melee weapon. That's one of the things that's different. The rest of them are all just kind of staples.
Mm-hmm.
Um, from FPS games. The sword, we're working on some cool stuff with it. Obviously, it's got a regular melee that's really strong. If you've got more than 100 health, like Zelda, you can charge it up just like the Master Sword. And then we're working on a secondary that it'll have when it's got more than 100 morale. That currently we're making it so it gives it a little shield so you can deflect projectiles back with it. Which will definitely be really cool in episode 3, because in episode 3 there's a lot of fireballs coming at you. So just kind of being able to run around and deflect fireballs back with the sword, and then slice people with it will make it really fun. Because we've got some levels in episode 3 where we don't give you anything but the sword, so you'll have to rely strictly on melee. And stuff, which is cool. We like changing it up. In episode 3, there's going to be a lot of new stuff. There's new enemies, some weapon changes, some power up changes. It's gonna get pretty weird.
And looks like we have some questions in chat. Taylor's Beef just want to ask: are there going to be new weapons in episode 3?
Not yet. We've got some new not actual weapons that'll go between 1 and 9. But we've got some things that you like one-use weapons, right? There's obviously the Crystal of Madness that makes enemies infight. There's a lot of those in episode 3. There'll be some one-time use weapons, things that you can pick up and use once, stuff like that. But I don't know if we're gonna actually add any new weapons to the game. We might change some stuff. And then we're working on things that we're going to do with the weapons for your second playthrough, because at the end of Dusk, the idea right now after the ending with the big payoff is it's going to give you a reason to play through the entire campaign all over again.
Nice.
Because we are going to there's going to be some big changes that happen to your character at the end of the game that will make playing through the entire game again feel much, much different.
Nice. Oh, and the chat is reading my mind on a few of these questions and comments. So, first off, the Metsman was saying the syringe power-up, was that inspired by Super Hot, or was that a coincidence?
Yeah, it's literally a Super Hot power-up. Yeah,
I know. I think I said the exact same thing the second I picked them up. I'm like, wait a minute, this is just Super Hot now. Just turned into Super Hot for a few minutes.
No, it's literally Super Hot power-up. Yeah, it's not it's called the. What do we call it? We call it the very warm. It's Super Hot power. Yeah.
There we go.
David was just messing around, and he managed to get the time only moves when you move thing going, and it works, and it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
So we put Super Hot power up in the game. And that's another thing. Dusk is inspired by not just really old shooters, but recent shooters too. There's a lot of Doom 2016. There's Super Hot stuff in there. There's Stalker in there. It's not just 90s.
Mm-hmm. And before I get to Talos Beef's second comment, the Metsman asks, is there going to be more mind fudgery levels in episode 3?
What do you mean, Escher Labs type stuff? Oh,
That's
yeah,
what I'm thinking.
Yeah, episode 3 is going to be all kinds of wild stuff. I mean,
Nice.
It's just there's no more limitations now that you're in this other plane of existence, right? There's absolutely no limits to what we can do as far as turning you upside down and inside out. Absolutely. The plan is to get really, really weird.
Nice. And speaking about getting weird, this takes me to Talos' second comment about soap. And one of the weird things I had to ask about Dusk's weapons, there we go, is the ability to just pick up random objects and throw it at people. And in this game, it's a legitimate tactic. You can throw a piece of soap or a toilet paper roll.
There's barrels and all kinds of stuff. Use saw blades. There's all kinds of shit all over the place.
What was the decision to just allow you to pick up any old item and just fling it at enemies and it does massive damage?
Well, that was one of the things the interactivity from the 90s shooters. With games like Duke and Shadow Warrior and Half-Life and stuff. Just being able to use the environment to your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And it's with physics objects are always fun. Everyone loves throwing physics objects around. I remember as soon as like the gravity gun became a thing in Half-Life, everybody was like, "This is fucking really fun, just throwing shit around."
Yeah.
And in Dusk, you could use it. You could stack boxes to get to higher places. You could throw them at people. You can use them as a weapon. You could use them to block projectiles. You could pick up a barrel and hold it, or run around with it and use it as a shield, and throw it at a guy, then throw it at another guy, then use your guns or not use your guns. It just adds to the ways that you can play the levels.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun. It's the answer is because it's fun. I mean, we don't do things because they're not fun. We do it because they're fun. And the soap thing just kind of started as a, we put in that pre-alpha level, and then people started playing the game with just soap. They did soap only runs and shit like that. Really funny stuff. And then so David decided to put a bar of soap literally in every level of the game, and it's become such a thing that we're actually making, the collector's edition of the game will have a bar of soap in it.
Nice.
It'll be bacon scented, which is good. So you can bathe with your Dusk bacon soap if you buy the collector's edition of Dusk.
Mm-hmm. I think we just found another marketing point for the Steam store page when the time comes there. Oh man, I guess here's to kind of like for a fun little question for you and for the folks watching this live. I guess for you, Dave. In terms, obviously, you've played a lot of FPSs, and there are such a wide variety of weapons. I guess, what are like some of your favorite weapon types, or just a favorite weapon that you've played in an FPS?
Favorite weapons. I don't know. Well, you gotta say the cerebral bore from Turok 2. If you don't say that, you're wrong, right? I like the. We were actually talking about Singularity the other day, because David hasn't played Singularity yet, but I mean, he hasn't played Singularity, and I haven't played Stalker, so it kind of evens out. We'll talk about the Seeker gun, from Singularity, where you shoot it and it has that slow-mo bullet cam that follows the bullet towards the enemy. I always thought that was really, really cool. Some of my favorite weapons, like I said, a single shotgun from Doom and Quake. I was always a fan of the Ripper from Duke. It's just, such a cool take on just the regular machine gun. Never a big rocket launcher guy.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. It's funny because there's this guy, Doc, who's a writer, and he just hates on the pistol from Half-Life 2 so much. And I love the pistol from Half-Life 2. That's got to be one of my favorite pistols. Half-Life 2 pistol. I don't know, cool weapons. The weapons we did in Rise of the Triad 2013 were so cool with their alt fires, like the firebomb that we did, and all the weapons from Rise of the Triad: split missile firebomb, heat seeker, flame wall. That game had some cool ass weapons, and it still does. And Medieval's got really cool weapons now too. I'm really stoked on some of the stuff we've got going there. The Crystal Morning Star that pins dudes to the wall. Whisper's Edge, slicing dudes in half. The Volt Ride, which has got the big fucking beam when you get into soul mode. I like the Riveter, obviously, because it's a really fast rocket launcher. In Dusk. Crossbow's cool because it goes through walls. I don't know, favorite weapons in FPSs. I'm trying to think. I don't know, I like shotguns. Shotguns on top of shotguns. You play Russian Overkill, which is like shotguns and then more shotguns and on top of your shotguns, and then shotguns in your shotguns. Yeah, I don't know. That's about it. Yeah, I can't think of any like off the top of my head. I'd probably have to think harder on the games that I've played. But yeah, what did I say? The throwing stars in Shadow Warrior are cool. Dynamite in Blood is cool. I like the Ripper in Duke. That was always a favorite of mine. Just the way it looked and sounded. He held it sideways. It's kind of like. Also, like trip mines in Duke. All the weapons in Duke, really. Pipe bombs. Duke 3D had the coolest weapons, man. People remember Duke for like the one-liners and shit like that, but Duke was all about fucking cool weapons and aliens exploding.
Yeah.
Just throwing a pipe bomb down a hallway, and then trip mines, and then walking into it and beep 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 beep. Yeah.
All right. I think for me, like the two games that always come to my mind would be the original Painkiller.
Okay.
And the Metzman mentioned the Stake Gun. That was one of my favorites as well. Just like how varied the different weapons were in that game. In fact, everything had that very crazy alternate fire. And just had the second game. Oh, and Bulletstorm. I really liked how you got
Yeah,
really insane with like trying to get those crazy kills.
yeah, the whip and shit was cool
Hmm.
with Bulletstorm. Everything in Bulletstorm was cool. Bulletstorm is a really cool game. It's
Hmm.
a shame that the new remaster edition wasn't really all that remastered or good, and they kind of just like threw Duke in there and didn't even like redub his voice or anything. That was pretty funny. They just kind of let John do it and then just like kept the animations. It's pretty good. Um, yeah, what was I gonna say? Yeah, Serious Sam's got some cool weapons too. Like in Serious Sam, like the later ones with the cannonball launcher is pretty nuts. I was always a fan of Sam's pistols. Um, Serious Sam's got some cool weapons.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's all it takes all kinds.
All right.
The Yeah. Let me think. I'm trying to think. The original. Wolf 3D, chain gun's pretty cool. Does the new Wolf have any cool weapons that I really like?
I don't know. I haven't played
The
the second
pipes.
one yet.
In the old Blood, BJ gets to use pipes, and those are really cool. I wish every game had the pipes from the old Blood. Um, Other than that, the weapons in the new Wolf games are pretty standard. Yeah, I don't know. I like shotguns.
All right. Okay, quick time check. We are now about an hour and 10 in, so I figure we will start to wrap things up in the next like 10-15 minutes if that works for you, Dave. Unless you want to
Yeah.
go longer or anything like
No,
that.
I got stuff to do. So yeah, go for it.
All right. So for you folks watching this live, I'm going to be putting out the last call for questions now. In like the next 5-10 minutes, we'll begin to wrap things up. Now, one thing that we didn't touch on that I wanted to bring up with you, Dave, is excuse me, was the decision to put Dusk into early access. Now,
Okay.
obviously, when you guys originally released the alpha build to press people and streamers, that was simply episode 1. And then, of course, a few months ago, as of the time of this recording, the game went to early access with episode 2. Was the decision there from the beginning to go into early access, or did that sort of develop over the course of making Dusk?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it when we made the announcement and stuff. Um, Originally we thought we were going to be done with it like a lot sooner. We didn't think we needed early access, right? We were kind of like, early access has this reputation for fucking games that don't get finished and stuff, and we don't want to be like, we don't want people to think we're like an early access game. I'm making air quotes right now, right? And then as time went on and the scope of the game got bigger, we were working on Dusk World, and episode 2 was, taking a while because with the expectations got really high after we put out episode 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we knew we had to just kind of crush it with episode 2, and originally we thought we'd be done in a few months, and people were like, "Well, where's the rest of the game?" And we talked to Valve about it, and they're like, "You guys should just put the game in early access. I mean, that's what early access is for." And we were like, "Meh, we didn't need to." And they're like, "You should really do it as long as you explain to people, what you're doing and stuff. They'll be fine with it. And you don't stay in early access forever." And we're like, "Well, we know we won't because we're good at this. We're working on the game. We communicate with our customers really well." So when we did the decision, I mean, in hindsight, we should have done it from the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't know. We thought we wouldn't need it, and we'd just be able to do like pre-order, and then hey, the game's out. But obviously, the decision ended up really good, especially because when you're not in early when the game's not for sale and it's just like a pre-order thing that you can get behind the scenes, you can't get reviews, people can't share it, doesn't really show up on the Steam store for people.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that Valve and Steam works now, they reward you for doing early access and doing it the right way. So in hindsight, yeah, we should have done it, but we thought we didn't need it, right? Especially with Duskworld and stuff, we've got an internal QA team, but opening the game up to thousands of people makes it, you get a lot more testers and a lot more testing and a lot more.
Yes.
The problem is if you do everything internal and then you put it out like it's final, there's so many issues you just won't see, right? So with early access, and what early access is for to make sure that you get everything done before you go to a full launch.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to not be so hot on early access, but now with the way that Steam and Valve work, we've embraced it. We're going to be putting a Medieval into early access with 3 episodes and endless mode playable. That we'll be doing that in the next couple of weeks. It's actually pretty close to getting there. We just got to do the trailers and shit. And then the same thing with Dusk. It's just been able to especially the response that people have given, being able to constantly update Dusk World and see the features that people want or don't want, so we know the kind of things we should be working on. Just being able to communicate with our customers and stuff. But yeah, we've embraced it. Whereas we used to say, "Meh, early access. We don't need early access. We're too cool for early access. This isn't some survival crafting game. We're not going to be working on this for 3 years." But with the way Valve works now and the way Steam works, early access is the way to go. I mean, unless your game's like done, but I mean, it helps. And especially just getting your customer, the people that support you the soonest, like those day zero buyers, the people who were with us, and we were rewarding them by giving them the soundtrack and upgrade and comic for free and stuff. Just being able to do that for them and make sure that they feel rewarded is great. So we want to reward them and get it out there and communicate with them, and they love that we communicate with them. So that's where we get all these these positive reviews from. People love the game, they love the work we're putting into the game. They feel like they're a part of the development process, which they are. They don't even realize that they've helped shape the story and stuff. We read all the comments of what people think the story is, and then we'll be like, that's a good idea, and then we'll go with that, and that's where the story goes, just from random comments on Discord and Steam forums and stuff.
And you're not the first developer to say how much their opinion on early access has changed after going through it. Because I heard.
Well, I think it's also Valve has changed a lot. The way early access is used a lot. Valve has shifted a lot. I mean, I've been putting games on Steam for 5-6 years, and back in 2013, there was no early access, there was no user reviews, there was no green light, there was none of that. You couldn't even put a game on Steam unless you knew somebody at Valve, right?
Oh yes.
So I mean, any game, it's hard out. It's easier than ever to make games. It's harder than ever to get them noticed, right? I mean, I think I saw a thing the other day by one of the guys at Tiny Build. He said the average game that comes out on Steam now sells 100 copies. Whereas back in 2013 we put out Rise of the Triad, the average game would sell 100,000 copies. Just because there's only 500 games on Steam back. There's 18,000 games on Steam now. So the fact that Dusk is overwhelmingly positive, we've already sold 20,000 copies, is a big deal as far as indie games go. And we're really excited. I mean, we think, over the course of a year, we'll be able to do, 100,000 copies, which would be wild. I mean, especially for David, who was, he was tuning pianos for a living, before he was, making money off of Dusk, and now he doesn't have to tune pianos anymore.
There we
go. Which is good. He's been able to make a good amount of money off of Dusk, and hopefully that'll continue. And it's fun. You play the long game. There's a lot of people who are just trying to get stuff out and get a quick buck. It's not like that anymore, especially on PC and Steam. You can't just put some, cobble some. I mean, there's still those survival crafting, nonsense games that come out and sell a ton of copies, and they don't care about the reviews and stuff, and it's just it's got a 46% approval rating, but fuck it sold 300,000 copies because people like running around naked and throwing stuff at each other. But that's not the kind of developers we want to be, right? I wouldn't trade a few more thousand copies for that 98% review score or happy customers for anything, right? Because I've been on both sides of the coin. I've been on the side where it's a lot of sales and negative reviews. And it's not fun. Waking up every day to shitty comments and bad reviews is not fun. Waking up every day to really nice reviews and happy customers and people really excited about the stuff you're working on is a lot better. My quality, I look in the mirror and my face looks a lot less stressed and disheveled than it did when I was working on games that did not have happy customers. So I mean, if that would be my advice to other devs, take the time, work with your customers, don't put stuff out till it's fucking ready. Our games are only ever done soon or now. There's no in between. It's soon, and then fucking now. Here it is. You can play it now. And if you want to wait, with early access, we encourage people to wait. Fuck it, wait, refund it, whatever. But the idea is we're not going to discount it. We're just going to keep adding content until you think it's worth what we think it's worth. The game is $20. If you don't think it's worth $20, we're not going to discount it to $4 so you finally buy it. We're just going to keep adding stuff to the game till you think it's worth $20. We want to set that bar with, we want to set the value of the game, and we want to set the bar of quality. We want to make it so it's undeniable, that this is a quality game, even in early access. Episode 1 and 2 are finished. It's not buggy and unoptimized. We give you 2 finished episodes and a multiplayer beta that has limited bugs and works really well, but it's it's a beta. But it's still, this is what we do early access for. We're in it to test it. We're not putting it out to get your money early or whatever. We need your help, and we need your help testing it, and we want to make sure it's perfect. So working with our community to make sure these games are pretty much fucking perfect, or 98% perfect, and then we put it out, and then it's done, and then we just add to it, and keep it going. And then hopefully it has a really long life, with the toolkit and Steam Workshop and stuff. We think Dust can be a game that we can work on for a few years. It's Valve always preaches games as a service, and people are like, oh, what does that mean? Just like DLC. It's like, no, you just keep adding to your games and stuff. Look at games like Killing Floor. Look at how long of a life that game has had on Steam, just because they keep adding to it and adding to it. Same with Killing Floor 2. They've made an entire business out of games as a service, and if you use Steam that way, because Steam is never going to go back to how it was. It's never going to be a curated store again, where but the cream will always rise to the top. I was talking to this dude from Valve when I was down in Australia, and he was like, and people are always bemoaning Steam these days, like, oh, there's all this fucking garbage on Steam. Like, how do you find the good stuff? And he said, listen, it's not about all the the garbage that's on Steam. It's not about standing out amidst all of that, because nobody sees that stuff. Nobody sees all the asset flips and bullshit unless they go looking for it, unless you're like Jim Sterling and you go looking for really shitty games so you can make a funny video about them. Like, you don't see that on the front page. What you see on the front page is thousands of really good games. There are so many good games out there. So it's about standing out amidst all those good games. And for Dust, the way we've been able to do that is obviously make a game that nobody else is making. There's no other retro shooter that's got this kind of structure besides a Medieval, right? All the other retro shooters are like procedural roguelikes and stuff. So like, we're that one that's got like the old school level design, and then harp on quality, just make it so it's fucking, there's no bugs, there's no performance issues, there's nothing that anybody who wants a game like this can objectively complain about. The reason people's and people are like, how do you have such a high review score and stuff? And I'm like, well, it's because we've told people what this game is. We've said who it's for. So if you know what this game is, and this is a game for you, and you play it, there's like a fucking 99% chance that you're really going to like it. Because if you like those old games, this is the game for you. And the only reason people would complain at that point is if it ran poorly, if it crashed, if it was, if there was issues, or if the game felt unfair at any point, but there's none of that, because we took the time to make sure that that's not a problem. So if you take away all the issues that people can have and give people exactly what they're asking for, then there's nothing to complain about, and people are happy. Happy wife, happy life. Happy customers, happy Dave.
Exactly.
And like, we could have got stuff done sooner. We could have probably sold a few more thousand copies, but I wouldn't trade happy customers and good reviews for an extra 5,000-10,000 copies, for anything. Not, maybe for like 1 million copies, okay? But like, I would not trade, the relationship we have with our customers and the love that we get for anything. My life, I am very happy when I wake up every day and I go to read all the forums and stuff. Like, you can't fake that. You can't buy that. Just, you can only work and do your best to make sure that happens. And hopefully we get the same response with the Medieval, because we're doing the exact same thing. We're working with our community to build a game that they want that feels very different from Dusk, but in the very same vein. And the same with our other games. With Unfortunate Spacemen, we're trying to build a really, really solid free-to-play game that stands head and shoulders above all the other free-to-play garbage on Steam. Obviously with a game like Unfortunate Spaceman, it's a multiplayer game, so you have to populate it, right? And there's only 2 ways to get a multiplayer game populated these days. Spend a shit ton on marketing and hope that it, it takes off as a premium game, or make it free. If it's free, it'll get populated. But the key is for not only to be populated, but to be like really good, like a solid ass game. Because there's like garbage ass shooters on Steam that are really populated by all the Brazilians and Russians who love free to play games. But if you've got a game like that that's also really solid and has really cool cosmetics, there's a chance for it to be really well. And we've never done a free-to-play game, so it'll be fun. It'll be a fun experiment. A really solid game with a lot of content that's got really cool cosmetics, and hopefully it'll do well. And the same thing with like Tonight We Riot. Like, we revealed that in 2016, and we haven't had it playable outside of shows for anyone yet, because it's just like not quite there yet. The game is almost done at this point. There's like so much content, like, but it's just like there's still like issues that we're worried that people will run into, and we don't want anybody to ever run into any issues with performance or bugs or glitches and stuff like that. So it's either, like I said, our games are either done soon or now. So when it's done, it's done. But I want to set that bar of quality, and I've had guys, come to me and be like, Dave, like, well, we'll just throw it up on early access. It's there's all this hot garbage on Steam that fucking does well. Like, let's just throw our stuff up there. It's better than all that. I'm like, and I've said this before, better than hot garbage. It's not where I want to set the bar.
Yes.
For our games. 98% fucking approval rating is where I'd much rather set the bar, which is insane, by the way. I don't think Dusk will stay there forever. That would be nuts. But I mean, like that, the fact that objectively, I give talks sometimes where I talk about messaging a lot, not just marketing. And messaging is about telling people what your game is and who it's for. So, if they see it, they know if the game is for them or not and exactly what that game is. And they're not surprised by anything. Nothing should surprise you. And I gave a talk last year down in Australia and I said nothing should surprise you in 2017 when you put a game out. If you put a game out and you're surprised by how people react to it, then you didn't get it out there enough. You didn't test it enough. You didn't build enough of a community to let you know. It's like Fergie last night sang the fucking national anthem, and it was the most atrocious thing I've ever seen. And I was like, did she rehearse that? Was she just surrounded by people who told her that it was great? Like, anybody objectively could have watched her sing the national anthem and been like, this is awful. And somebody should have told her how awful it was and that she shouldn't sing it like that. She should maybe just sing the national anthem like, I don't know, normally. We're not saying you got to sing it like Whitney Houston, but like, maybe just sing it and do an okay job, not like butcher it, so bad that people want to move to Canada. Like, it was awful. Don't watch it. But it's the same thing. She's like been surprised. She turned off the comments on her Instagram and stuff. I was looking at it this morning. It's like, if you're surprised that people are going to react to how you sing the national anthem like that, you did not do enough market research. You didn't test enough. And it's the same. You didn't sing it in front of enough people who aren't just going to tell you how great you are. It's like, oh my God, Fergie, you're the best. Oh, you're rad. You're slaying it, Queen, or some shit like that. That's probably what her her circle tells her. The same thing with games. If you put a game out and you're really surprised when people are like this game sucks, this isn't what I expected, runs like shit, crashes all the time. If any of that surprises you, then you didn't do enough due diligence and work. So it's the same thing with games. You shouldn't be surprised. Are we pleasantly surprised by the response Dusk has gotten? Sure. But like, are we like completely surprised? Absolutely not. We built it for this. We took our time. We spent a shit ton of time making sure like it's optimized, that there's no bugs, that there's no issues. If anything pops up, we've got the time between somebody posting an issue on the Steam forums and us replying and getting to work on fixing it. I think we've gotten down to like 20 minutes. The average response time that we've got to someone on the Steam forums is like 2 to 3 minutes before somebody responds. And they're like, how are you so on top of this? I'm like, it's our job. It's what we do. We sit at our computers all day waiting for a little green envelope, to pop up on Steam. And we go, oh boy, a new bug. We get really excited when there's a new bug because we don't get any of them, The other day, someone found a new bug in Dusk, and we were like, yay, new bug, something to work on. Because we don't, there aren't any. Because we spend so much time working on it, and it's fun. It's what we do. I mean, the dream is to like have like an office and stuff, so we can do this and get stuff done faster. But so far, so good. We're playing the long game. I mean, what remains to be seen with New Blood is if it's profitable, right? I could preach about taking our time and doing all this and not rushing and stressing and crunching. I could preach about that shit forever. But like, if we don't like make money and stuff. Yeah. In the long run, it won't be a sustainable business. Like, so far, so good, right? Dusk is starting to do well. We're starting to make some money. I pay my guys, like a pretty good amount, so, it has to balance out. But, like, I think, if we play the long game with games like Dusk and a Medieval and games like Unfortunate Spacemen do well as free-to-play, and then we finally get Laser Type out there, which we've been redoing, and Tonight We Riot, which we're kind of rebuilding for consoles right now. If that does really well on consoles because it's a really fun co-op, type game. You got your little mobs with co-op. That would be really good on Switch. If that does really well on consoles, and next thing you know, New Blood's like a company that's like making money and stuff, and then we could just kind of go do whatever we want. So I mean, That's the plan. So far, so good is what I tell people. I tell people, hey man, call me in a year. If we're still in business, then New Blood's doing okay. If not, then at least we put out really high quality games that people like. If New Blood's not in business and our legacy ends up being, games like Dusk and a Medieval that had like, people really, really loved and sold pretty well, then I'd be happy with that, and I'll go do something else. I'll go fucking sell cars again. I miss selling cars. It's a lot less stressful than, making video games.
All right. A lot of great stuff to unpack there, Dave. And again, the importance of people understanding what your game is about and getting that information to them cannot be understated. Because again, I've spoken to indie developers and I've seen them who they wait until the week before launch before they start thinking about PR and before they start talking to people outside their company as do you think our game is good? No, you have to be doing that stuff a lot earlier. And as you said, if your game, you should not be surprised in terms of what people think about your game at launch anymore. You really you can't afford it in this market.
Yeah, you really can. I mean, messaging is so important, and messaging, not marketing. And messaging starts day one. Messaging is not, PR and marketing and stuff. Messaging is as soon as you reveal your game, you have to tell people what it is and who it's for. Like with Dusk, people, when I did that original trailer, I was really like, Doom, Quake, Heretic, blah, 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 really beating people over the head with games that this game is like, and people originally were like, oh, it's a little bit on the nose, man. I was like, yeah, but like we told people exactly what this game is, exactly who this game is for, and there's no, people, that's it. You know who it is and what's for. And then when we started showing it, they're like, oh wow, it really is like these games. I was like, I told you so. And there's been no disconnect, because we messaged it from day one. Same thing with a Medieval. We were like, Medieval actually isn't a lot like Heretic and Hexen, but that was, the closest thing people can compare it to. It's actually a lot more like Unreal and Painkiller and stuff, but with, magical weapons. But, people were like, if you like this, you will like this. This is who this is for. This is what it looks like. This is what it plays like. So if you're into that, this is the game for you. You can't just shotgun blast, because I come from a marketing background, right? I've got, 2 marketing degrees that I don't even know where they are. They're in an envelope somewhere. You cannot make a game. You cannot try to appeal to everybody with a game that is only built for a small subsection of people. You have to, and when I give talks, I tell people, and I'm not like, I haven't sold a bajillion games, so I'm not one. I can't go preaching stuff. I don't give like a lot of talks and stuff. But when I do, I say you got to start from your core, right? Like especially with these retro shooters, we make games. It's a small audience. It's like 10,000 people. We're talking to guys on like Doom World and Duke 4 and shit who basically only play like Doom wads and stuff. But you have to start there from your core and grow out. Don't shotgun blast to people who play all kinds of games and try to get them to suddenly want to play a retro shooter. They're not into it. It's a very niche genre. Arena shooters and retro shooters. You gotta start with those people. Speak to the people who actually care about your game, and then hopefully grow from there. Yeah. Don't try to grab people who are love open world survival games and tell them that they should be playing a game that feels like Doom, because they're gonna buy it based on hype and be like, well, I don't like, I'm not into this. This doesn't do it for me. Those are the kind of people who are going to leave a review saying like, I thought, it looked cool. My friend told me about it, but I played it and I really just don't get it. I don't like it. And it's weird to me because, if people are used to playing modern shooters or adventure games, like someone who likes playing games like Assassin's Creed and Tomb Raider, if I manage to market to them and convince them that Dusk looks cool and they come and play Dusk and they didn't grow up playing 90s shooters and they don't like 90s shooters, it's gonna totally throw them off. They're gonna be like, what the fuck is this? They're not gonna be interested in it. So why would I waste my time trying to reach those people instead of my core? And my core, if you can impress, like we got the Holy Trinity, man. Like we got people saying nice things about Dusk on Doom World, on 4chan, on fucking it's Reset Era now. What happened to the other one? It like crumbled under itself, right? Whatchamacallit? What's the big forum?
GameFAQs, was that it? Or am I thinking of something?
No, whatchamacallit, the other one. NeoGAF.
Okay.
Yeah, NeoGAF like crumbled under itself with some scandal or whatever, and those guys move over to Reset Era. But like people saying nice things about Dusk on like all those things, like we did it. We got even like the deepest, darkest corners of the internet to like our game that because we made it for them. We made it for like the hardest of the harshest, guys who were like into these type of games who like complain about all the games that like don't appeal to them. We're always complaining about modern shooters and stuff. Like, well, we made a game for you guys, and they're like, yay. So then it spreads from there, from your core. You gotta fucking work on the people your game is for. If you're making a retro shooter, make it for retro shooter fans first. Don't make a retro shooter and then try to grab fans of indie platformers and be like, hey, check out this retro shooter. They're not gonna care. And you have to be realistic with your expectations. Dusk is not gonna sell 1,000,000 copies. It doesn't matter if it's got 99% or 100% review score on Steam. If Total Biscuit fucking loves it, if Lyric plays it on stream, it's never gonna sell like 1,000,000 copies. It's just people. There's not that many people who are into these types of games. You see the games that sell millions of copies on Steam and on consoles and stuff. It's really artsy games. It's big budget games. It's big multiplayer shooters. It's survival crafting games. It's stuff like Subnautica. It's games with that are in these established franchises. Like Hitman, Deus Ex, Doom, obviously. So games like Dusk and Medieval are never gonna But if you set your expectations, like we don't spend a lot making them. So I mean, if Dusk and Medieval sell 50,000 copies, like that's a crazy success for us. If we sell 100,000 copies, it's a runaway success. I can keep New Blood running for like another 2 years if we do that. And I tell people that, and they're like, "That's it." I'm like, "Is that not enough?" I tell people that New Blood hopefully could bring in like $500,000 in revenue this year, and they're like, "That's it." I'm like, "Is that not a lot of money?" Like that's like I can keep this company running for like 3 years for that, But you see these indie devs like they'll raise like a few $100,000 on Kickstarter, and they'll go open an office and start paying people full salaries and stuff, and then 3 months later they're broke. I'm like, well, no shit, That's the dream. One day, if New Blood makes like a bunch of money, we can get an office, and I can get like an accountant, and start like paying my guys full salaries and like health benefits. Like that'd be really cool. But like we're not there yet. You don't want to put the cart before the horse.
Oh yes.
You gotta be scrappy while you can. And that's what we're doing right now, and it feels good. Like we wake up every day in the middle of the day because we work till like 5 in the morning, just testing and doing fixes and stuff, and then we wake up and we just we enjoy like interacting with the community and working on these games, and it's fun. Like it feels good. Like I am stress free. I'm living my best life.
What more do you need at that point?
It's good. I mean, listen, the only thing we're not doing is making a ton of money, but like you can't rush that, right? You gotta stay the course, play the long game. People are like, oh man, you should put Dusk. Dusk is so good. You should put it on sale, 50% off. You make a ton of money right now. I'm like, no. No, we're not putting it on sale. I mean, Dusk is sold like a good amount, like 20,000 copies. It's only been in early access for a month, and there's also, I think it's got like 90,000 wish lists, which is nuts. And those are people who are waiting for it to be finished or waiting for it to go on sale. So when we finally do put it on sale for like 10% off in 2019, like imagine all the people who are going to buy it then. You got to stay the course, man. Don't be lured in by that quick buck and devalue your fucking your game. Do not race to the bottom. There's it was in 2014, 2015, 2016, there was such this race to the bottom with indie games. Like, cool, my game's $20. Okay, it's a month later, it's on Steam sale, it's 33% off. There's another Steam sale, it's 50% off. Humble Bundle wants it in there, so it's 80% off. And then the next, 6 months later, your game's 90% off. You had a game that was, you valued at $20, and 6 months later, you're selling it for $1.99. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Stay the course. But obviously easy for me to say, right? Like we've got, we can do that for now. I mean, a lot of indie devs, it's hard because, you need to make money. But I am here to tell you that if you can, stay the course, play the long game. There is no quick buck in PC game development these days. Take your time, make sure the game is good, because you can't come back from a bad launch.
Oh yes.
You cannot come back if you put a game out there on Steam on early access or whatever, or even on console, and it gets a bunch of bad reviews and a bunch of bad press, and people are saying really bad things about it, people are done. They're going to pass it by, and they're going to move on to the next thing, and your game will be lost and forgotten forever. You can't come back from that. If people like hit your Steam page or whatever, and it says like mixed reviews, and I know all about it, man. If you hit a Steam page for a game, and you're like, this looks pretty cool, and you see the reviews, and it's like mixed, you're like, next, done, next, fucking swipe left, right? Fucking book, done. That's what it is these days. You're either wish listing or swiping left. So it's so important to build a community and build that rapport and work. Like I said, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I would not trade our happy customers and our good reviews for the world. We could rush, we could stress, we could get stuff done faster, we could probably make a little more money, but I would not trade it for the world.
And definitely a lot of really great points there, Dave. And if we had the time for like an hour 2, an hour 3 of this cast, we could certainly dedicate more to marketing and building your community, because those are very essential points that, as you said, I think a lot of people tend to mess up on or don't quite understand the importance when it comes to selling your game. But with that said, I know we have certainly gone over an hour and a half, so...
Yeah, we're an hour 44, dang.
Yeah, I know. I told you, these casts, I'm like, yeah, it only takes 40 minutes.
Like, we originally wanted to do the interview with David, too, but the problem is I just talk over him and talk forever anyway. You just asked me one question, I'm just like 20 minutes later I've answered the question, but that's, people know me, man. I'm a fucking... I enjoy talking. I do the talking a lot. But yeah, I mean, the one thing I could say about building a community to anybody who's listening to this or anybody who's going to watch the video is Discord. Discord is a fucking blessing. It used to have your own, you used to have your own forums, your own places, Facebook page, literally just funnel everybody into Discord. Discord is a godsend for not only game development, but for community. It acts as a forum, it's voice chat, it's screen sharing, it's video, pictures. It is everything. I got rid of Slack, I got rid of Skype. We are 100% Discord now. If you want to build a community for your game, or for like, even if you got LAN parties and shit, just Discord. Like, if you haven't tried Discord yet, if you're still like, what's that? Just seriously, get on there. Get rid of Skype, get rid of Slack. I know we're on Skype right now. We could have done this on Discord.
Yeah.
So if you want Discord. Oh, and Tailless Beef, who was asking questions before, I was asking, we were talking about the super hot power up, and I was like, I think it's called the Serum of Blistering Heat. I forget, okay? I work on this thing all the time. So it's not super hot, it's Serum of Blistering Heat. And it's not Black Phillip, it's Dark Steven. We try our best not to get sued.
That's another important tip. Don't get sued. If you don't sue me, it's suedaveoshri@gmail.com. I have an email specifically for that. Nobody has actually sued me yet, which is good. That's always important. Yeah, we have our own Discord with the Game Wisdom channel. We have it for our Patreon. So anyone who donates at least $1 or more gets in. We talk about game design. Yeah, it's really great for just having that instant community, and you don't need to set up a lot of stuff for it, because that, I think, is another major part, that you have to make it as easy as possible for people to find you and get in touch with you.
Yeah, it's super easy. Discord rules. Discord is the best. Discord number one. Discord is the best.
There we go. All right. Quick question, Mike asked, where do you see physical games going? Do you think that there's still a market for having physical copies of games?
In Europe and stuff, apparently. In like Europe and Eastern Europe, they still do a lot of physical copies of games. In the States, it's dead. Even like GameStop and stuff, GameStop's moving towards like toys and collectibles and shit. I don't know if you've been into a GameStop lately.
No, not in a long time.
Best Buy doesn't carry a lot of games. Even Fry's, Fry's just carries all that stuff because they can, because they're enormous and they carry everything. Physical is dead. Big box is dead. Everything's digital now. Even collector's editions don't come with physical games anymore. Like whatchamacallit, the Wolfenstein collector doesn't come with the game. Because you're gonna get the game digitally anyway. With the Dusk collector's edition, there's gonna be it'll be a Steam key or a GOG key or whatever, and then it's all the collectibles, because I got the Kingdom Come Deliverance collector's edition because I guess I backed it on Kickstarter. That game is really good, by the way. It's a bit janky, runs kind of like ass, but it's really good. And it came with the game on CDs, And I was like, oh, cool, I guess I can. And then I realized my PC doesn't even have a CD drive.
Yeah, my CD drive broke like some point in the last 2 years,
Yeah,
and I
I
never
literally
knew
don't
about it.
even have a way to install the game. So like, but in Europe and stuff, that's still big business. But yeah, I mean, I think physical is basically dead. It's digital these days. I mean, I still enjoy physical stuff. Like I get collector's
Oh yeah,
editions and old school big boxes. We're doing a big box for Dusk.
with that bacon
Like
soap too.
with the bacon soap and a little action figure and all kinds of cool shit. That'll be a really fun collector's edition. We're working on that. Um, but yeah, I mean, other than that, like for regular stuff, I think it's for consoles, there's still a thing. People still buy console games because consoles still take discs and stuff. But even then, you buy a new console game, you put it in, you load it up on your fucking PlayStation, then you got an hour of updates.
Yeah.
Download before you can even play the game. It's this magnificent world we live in. I remember when you just bought a game and was it. You put it in your
Yep.
Nintendo and it fucking worked. And that was it. I don't remember there being bugs either. I don't remember a Super Nintendo game ever like crashing on me. Remember? Like I never happened. Like occasionally the screen would freeze or something, but I don't think that was a bug. I think it was more just like a wiring issue.
All
But like I
right.
remember games just worked. Now they just get patched.
Now we're getting to the old man version of our podcast.
Yeah, I remember back in my day, video games just fucking worked.
There we go.
Super Mario 3 didn't need no patches.
All right. Well, if we don't stop things soon, we'll be here for like another hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah,
So,
man, go, go, go. I'm gonna get back to work. I got a lot of stuff to do. But thanks for taking the time. You know me, I'm always happy to run my mouth for a million years.
all right. So, with that said, I just have a few final questions for you, Dave, and a few final questions from chat, and then we
Sure.
will say good night. So,
Sure.
this one came up a few minutes ago, or a while ago. I wanted to just get in. The Metsmen ask, so what upcoming game is Dave looking forward the most himself? What game are you the most itching to play?
Far Cry 5 for sure, because it's like Dusk with graphics. Anytime where you could, shoot crazy David Koresh style cult leader type nuts dudes. Even they're doing a Waco series on TV. That
I
wanna
know.
watch. I was always when I was younger and stuff. I was like obsessed with like Waco and Ruby Ridge and all that kind of those crazy standoffs with like crazy cults and stuff. Back when back when that was the biggest thing that was going on in America, right?
Oh,
We had
yes.
crazy cult leaders in the South, and holding up in a house. But yeah, Far Cry 5 looks really good. I haven't been into Far Cry in a while because they just kind of started
Oh, yeah.
pumping them out. I played 3 a bit. I liked it, but I got bored halfway through because these Ubisoft games, they make these giant open worlds where it's just like there's a fucking map with like all these tiny little things to do, and it was like, I'm just like I'm bored of doing the same type of of liberate this thing, liberate this thing, liberate this thing. But I dig 5 a lot. I downloaded 4 and played it for like 5 minutes. Never played it. Never played Primal. Completely forgot about that. But 5 I dig a lot. I dig the setting. I like how it feels. I played it a bit at a convention. I was digging the vibe. It seemed a bit smaller, and I love that it's like set in Montana and stuff with the crazy call. And you can get I like the companions you can get. Plus, I mean the mechanics and the visuals. I mean in Far Cry is always top notch. The shooting feels really good. The weapons are good. So as far as big budget stuff, Far Cry 5 for sure. What else? I just saw that the Outcast reboot, Outcast HD remake, actually came out in November, and nobody told me. If you remember that game,
Yeah.
that came out. What am I looking forward to? I mean, I don't know. I was looking really forward to like Dragon Ball Fighters, and then it came out, and like I haven't had time to play. I don't really play fighting games, but I love DBZ. I haven't. I mean, the thing that you always hear from game devs is we don't have time to play any games but the ones that we play, that are games. Like last night I was like, I'm gonna play some Stalker or Kingdom Come, and I just ended up, testing Dusk and a Medieval till 4 in the morning. Because like that's not only is it my job, but I enjoy it. I love playing my own games. I mean, that's how you know your games are good when you play them instead of doing other stuff. I was really looking forward. I mean, Kingdom Come kind of fell off for me a little bit because it took them so long. I was actually surprised when it came out. I was like, oh shit. And I got my collector's edition in the mail, and I played that for like 6-7 hours already. It's really good. I'm waiting till they add some patches to like fix like the saving, the lockpicking and stuff, because the lockpicking is super hard. It's like fucked. And I want to play like a stealth thief type character, because I always play that in like Bethesda games and stuff. I love being sneaky lockpick guy. But like the lockpicking's like super hard and broken. And the save system, they've got this crazy save system where you can only save if you drink a potion that costs a bunch of money or when you sleep bed. And for a game that's prone to bugs and where you're like out and when you're gone from a bed for like hours at a time, it is just not. I mean, I know why they did it to like add to that realism, and so you can't like save before every conversation like you do in Skyrim to see the different results and stuff. I get it, right? But let people save in your games. Fuck your realism. Let people save. So I'm gonna wait a bit until they patch that. Kingdom Come. Yeah, that's it. I mean, Subnautica took me by surprise. I beat it. I played 50 hours in a week. I played it start to finish. Love that game. Game of the year so far for me. I don't know what's coming out. I have no idea what's coming out. I work on our games. Far Cry 5 is the only one I can really think of off the top of my head. Yeah, I'm excited to get more of our games out. If there's any other RPGs coming out that I don't know, Pillars of Eternity 2, I guess, because I love that. That's like people always forget that my two genres. Everyone knows me as the retro shooter guy, but my other big genre is turn-based, not turn-based, old school CRPGs. Fallout, Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, any of those Infinity Engine games, Torment, stuff like that. So Wasteland 3, whenever Fargo reveals that fully, and Pillars 2, and all that stuff that basically anything that Inexile and Obsidian are cranking out these days. There's been such a renaissance of CRPGs. That's really my genre of choice, right next to first person retro first person shooters. So I'm stoked on Pillars 2. Yeah. I still haven't played Divinity 2. I haven't played Divinity Original Sin 2 because I know once I start, that'll eat my life.
Yeah, I just bought the first one. It was on the Steam sale, so I haven't had a chance to load that one up yet.
Yeah, I never beat that one either. But those games are long, and Original Sin too. There's so much game there. Like there's that whole Dungeon Master mode. We could like make your own campaign. It's crazy.
Oh my god.
No, I can't believe it. There's so much in that game. And Larian's they're a small studio too. But I know Sven and stuff. Those guys, they deserve all their success, man. That is a hell of a fucking game. They are the kings right now of the CRPG. Good for them. I'm happy for them. Definitely. Sven, it couldn't happen to a nicer dude too. Sven's the nicest fucking dude. He's brutal if you play him in his game though. I remember I played him. I played him in multiplayer at a show a couple years back at Divinity 2 when they were showing multiplayer, and he just crushed me. I'm like, it's your game. I don't even know how it works yet. He's like, haha, fuck you, Dave. I was like, god damn it.
That happened. That reminds me when I played Zach Barth at one of his games. I'm like, we're just have a casual, friendly time. Like, no, I built this deck explicitly to crush you.
Yeah, like, they don't do that. Like when people play Romero and Doom and stuff, like he doesn't take it easy on them.
No.
He just wipes the floor with people at GDC. They just line up to get beat by Romero. But it's fun. But yeah, that's all I can think of.
All right, and I think I know the answer to this one, but just to clarify, is there an estimated idea for when Dusk Episode 3 will be done?
When it's done, probably March, April. It's February already. Is it February? Holy crap! It's already March.
I know.
We're getting there. I was testing Episode 3 last night. Level one's pretty close with a few tweaks. Level 2, same way. Level 1 and 2, they're like already really good. Level 3 and 4, they're a bit rougher. David's still I can tell that he's still trying to figure it out, so I got to give him some guidance on some stuff. And then past that's when we're gonna start getting like really weird with stuff. So there's gonna be a lot of iteration. And then the ending's probably gonna take us a while, because like I said, I really want to stick the landing with this thing, have the reveal. The big reveal at the end, everything be really fucking awesome, make the player feel really good. So it's getting there. It's gonna be some of these levels are wild too, man. Some of these levels are really big. We showed you some screenshots. And we've got some David's already come up with some new enemies. Like one of them is just like, I don't know where he thinks of this shit. He's like he's a sick puppy, man. There's like some fucked up stuff, and this dude's into his fucking body horror. There's
nice.
some new enemies. I'm gonna do some stuff with the weapons, but it's getting there. Obviously, there's no reason for us to rush it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to get it out in due time. But the thing was always with early access is like David's gonna go work on episode 3, and while we're constantly updating Dusk World, there will be a Dusk World update this week. We're hoping to get spectator mode in. There's the tournament. We're having our first tournament this Friday, where we're giving out the winners. I'm going to give them Corsair mice and keyboards, so that should be pretty cool. And yeah, it'll be done when it's done. Like I said, either soon or now, but it's really getting there. And I think David, the expectations are so high, right? After episode 1 and episode 2, we've really just got to they're when it's done.
All right. Well, I think with that, I'm afraid to ask you another question, Dave, because we'll be here for another half hour
I
easily.
told you, man. You know me. I'll just talk forever. Well, you don't know me, and now you know me. So
Yeah.
don't ever ask me anything, because it's just like 2 hours later, I'll finally be done talking.
All right. But I think with that, it is about time to say goodnight. So, again, for you and David and the rest of the team on Dusk, definitely the best of luck with the game. I'm enjoying it. I'm sure a lot of the folks watching this live record right now are enjoying it, and we're all waiting to see how things turn out.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so with that said, we are going to wrap things up. Like I said, Dave, you wouldn't mind hanging on Skype for like 1 minute after we say goodnight. Just have a few questions to ask you. But for you folks watching this, either live or recorded, thank you so much for tuning in to our talk about Dusk. When episode 3 is released at that mythical soon, I'm sure myself will be, and a few other people will be playing it, so be sure to check things out there. If you're watching this recorded right now and would like access to this video early and ad-free, check out patreon.com/GWBycer to find out how. Of course, be sure to check out Dusk, currently available on Steam. And Dave, if anyone wants to follow you, David, or Dusk, do you have any places you want to mention before we say goodnight?
Yeah, David is at DuskDev on Twitter. I'm at Dave Oshri on Twitter. The New Blood is at the New Bloods on Twitter. Newblood.games is our website. Discord.gg/newblood is our Discord, and that's it, man. Come join the community. Post some fucking forced memes. Shit post all you want. Anime is banned, so don't bring any of that. But other than that, we're happy to have you. Happy life. Happy wife, happy life, happy customers, happy... nothing rhymes with customers. Happy customers, happy schmustafers.
There we go. That's our point to end on. So, with all that said, we are going to end things for tonight. If you're watching this live, I'll be back on in a few hours for my regular game streaming, and check back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. And if you're a developer working on an upcoming game and like to talk about game design, please don't hesitate to get in touch. So, again, Dave, thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully we can have another chat as Dusk begins to wrap up. Maybe it will be an hour, maybe it'll be 3 hours. We won't know until we start.
You never know.
So, with that said, thanks for tuning in. Have a great rest of the day, and I will see you all later. So until then, take care, everybody.